Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie. I am the senior editor here, and today I am thrilled to bring you a discussion about some of the challenges that contact centers are likely to face in 2025 and how you could possibly overcome them. And joining me for that conversation is Brandon Knight, the global head of CX ecosystem at Zoom. Brandon, thanks very much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Charlie. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great, and always excited to have these conversations with you guys because I think it's good and applicable information for our customer base and for your audience. So ready to do it, man.
Absolutely, yeah, it's great. It's great to once again for you once again to join us. It's always, as you say, a great conversation.
Yeah.
And this actually discussion that we have today stems from a webinar that we recorded a few weeks ago with the Zoom team, and I've actually left a link to that below in case anybody wants to watch that afterwards. But in it, we mentioned some of the challenges that contact centers are currently facing as part of a broader conversation about the future of the contact center. And now I'd quite like to use this opportunity to tackle some of those challenges head on, and yeah, as I mentioned, discuss how we can possibly overcome those. So
Mm-hmm.
the first one that was mentioned, and I'm sure every contact center has experienced this in some way, is high agent turnover. That if we've done a challenges article for the past 20 years, 30 years, that will be kind of challenged, maybe definitely in the top five
Yeah.
across that time. So yeah, Brandon, I don't know what you can tell us about this challenge and how you're seeing kind of contact centers take this head on.
Yeah. Well, first thing is you hit it right on the head. Attrition, high agent turnover has been an indicator in the contact center space. I mean, almost since the beginning. It's gotten a little better, but it's still easily the number one issue facing every contact center. I mean, mostly because it's a tough job, right? And a lot of it, in a lot of ways, in the customer service. It's interesting because there's a weird dynamic that happens in most businesses because the contact center, that front agent, is considered in a lot of businesses. Unfortunately, they're considered a cost or an expense. They're considered not very important. In some businesses, they're even the lowest paid people there, which is ironic because they have the biggest impact on the customer base because they are the company to your customers. So it's interesting that dynamic exists. And we know that a lot of agents, when you talk about why they leave or why they attrit, most list, the number one choice is still, my supervisor or my leader for whatever reason. But right up there, usually number two or three has to do with not having the tools I need to do my job effectively. And that's kind of where we come in, right? We want agents to have the tools they need. We want them to have access to the information they need, make it easily accessible so they can respond to what the caller really wants in a timely fashion. So if you can address that, you can tackle numbers two and three usually on their list for why they're leaving. Number one's a different thing. That's up to you guys to work with your leadership and supervision, but getting them the right tools so they feel like they can do their job effectively is very important.
Hmm. I think a huge part of that, often, obviously, people will say AI can do can take a lot of that away from you. There's virtual agents, of course, agent assist tools as
Hmm.
well that will support agents as they're taking on more of the complex queries too.
Yeah.
But I think something that's often overlooked is swarming capabilities, such as you actually have at Zoom as one of the few providers that can offer that internally. In that when there's a really tricky customer call, you can send it across on Zoom chat to somebody externally, but still within the organization who has the real
Hmm.
time expertise to help resolve that query. And
Yeah.
whether that conversation passes directly to that employee or the agent is just talking to them sort of in real time across maybe a chat channel. I think
Yeah.
that capability is particularly huge. And of course, AI can do so much, but I think that's one that's perhaps often overlooked. And in this age of increased CCAS and UCAS convergence, I think that's critical. So lots of really good stuff there on our first challenge of high agent turnover. The second one I have is a lack of omni-channel experiences leads to customer frustration due to repetition. Again, this is one I think that we've had on the list for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
But Brandon, yeah, I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, it like you said, it's one that's been on the list for contact centers for a while. I mean, I can remember back when we thought major advancements were adding prompts on the IVR, right? If you could get, push one for sales and two for support and all that kind of stuff to try to get them to the right agent. But that was all still inbound voice traffic. Now we know, and I know people say multiple different generations like to interact differently. There's some truth to that, right? There, you have a pocket of people that want to call. They want someone to answer the phone. They want it to be answered quickly. They want, they want a voice response. We have some people that want to use the web. They don't want to talk to a person. They want to get on the internet. They want to go to your website. They want to get their issues resolved. Or maybe a chat bot. Of course, we know that SMS and texting is a big deal now, that more businesses are using because more customers are demanding it. And the challenge is there are a lot of businesses that have multi-channels, and some people listening might not even know the difference really between like an omni-channel and a multi-channel. They may say, well, they're the same. They're not, because in a multi-channel you have different ways for your customer to interact with you, but they're not intertwined. They're not easy for the agent to see. They're literally just different ways. So your customer can chat with you, but if they call on the phone, the person's not going to know that they chat, or the customer can send an email and vice versa. In a true omni-channel environment, you can see all the interactions that customer has had. And it makes a huge difference because from the customer perspective, if I'm calling you already for an issue, right? Let's not a salesman, but if I'm calling you already for an issue, we're emotional creatures, right? I already have some level of frustration. I have some level of upsetment. If you make me go through a bunch of prompts and put in my ID and verify myself and all those things, and then the agent gets on the phone and you still don't know who I am, you're still asking basic questions, you don't know that I was just now on your website trying to resolve an issue, then you're adding to my frustration. So before you can even resolve my problem, you're escalating my temperature is going up and my patience is going down. So having a true omni-channel environment is important because it not only addresses the actual work and issue that the customer is calling about, it addresses my emotional state when I don't have to repeat myself and I don't have to re-explain my issue. So that it's more important, honestly, than just the technology and just having the information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there have actually as well been some interesting steps to make omnichannel more, more manageable almost in securing it recently. I think maybe one good example I can think of is a Gen AI summary, for example.
Yeah.
So if a customer just has a conversation on a virtual agent and perhaps gets stuck, that escalation path, maybe the agent would have to kind of read back through a transcript in history to kind of find out, to get the context that they need and resume the conversation. But in summarizing that conversation and passing that through to an agent, they immediately can pick up from where the customer left off, if that makes sense,
Yes.
on the previous interaction. So I think it's been some interesting steps in that. And I think Gen AI summaries are definitely a solution to explore, to kind of not just achieve omnichannel. There's things that you have to do, of course, before that. But if you're kind of already kind of think you're there and looking to evolve the experience head on.
And
Sorry, man.
No, I just wanted to add to that because that also the integrity of that summary is important, right? Because before we had AI during the summer, you had an agent putting in their notes and their resolution for what the call was about. And we're all human beings. Some of us are better at note taking than others. Some of us are better at explaining what the call was about. So if you're that next agent picking up a call, maybe it's the second or third time the person called, you have to read through, and then you have to try to figure out what was important to that last agent that I spoke to look at if those notes are really going to be meaningful, versus a Gen AI summary where it's capturing everything pertinent. There's consistency across the organization, and there's a little bit more integrity in the data because it's coming from an unbiased, unsubjective source.
Yeah, and historically that's been such a big problem in contact centers too. So at the after call work, especially just when you have a disposition code, just because you're in such a rush, you just pick the one that's top of the list almost, and not kind of
Yes,
accurately going down.
yes.
I
The,
just
the
choose it.
longer your list of disposition codes, the less likely you are to have accurate dispositions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then the next agent that comes along when the conversation gets escalated,
Yeah.
that's a problem. So yeah, I think there's lots of good chat there about kind of the omni-channel
Mhm.
experience. I do want to talk about our third challenge next, and that's pressure to implement AI and deliver quick ROI. And that often is coming. Well, that currently is coming from above. They've kind of seen all
Yeah.
this chat GPT, so the headlines that have come up
Mhm.
and yet the capabilities now that are out there, but that kind of changes almost the role of a contact center leader now to kind
Yeah.
of understand AI and implement it too. I don't know, yeah, what you can tell me about this challenge.
Yeah, Charlie, what's crazy is the is what I call the perfect storm that's happening right now. You have real AI impact in the contact center. Then you have this huge influx of internet media marketing attention around AI that is hard to understand and just seems like a lot of flash, a lot of fluff, and a lot, and so you have pressure from executives, you have pressure from leadership saying, "Oh, this thing is happening, and I'm not a part of it. I need to be a part of AI. Like go implement AI," which is one of the craziest statements you can say to someone as a leader. It's on go implement AI as if it's a product to buy. And then the other thing is because of that, there are new AI companies coming up every day. I was joking with somebody. I said I'm just going to put AI after my name. I'm just going to become like Brandon.ai because it seems to be popular. Like everyone wants to do it, and it's drawing the right attention. The thing that I would share with the audience, especially if you're getting pressure from leadership saying go implement AI, is to try to understand that the AI in and of itself isn't a product. It's not like you go buy AI off a shelf and like, oh look, I have AI now. I like to explain it kind of like I like to cook. Like that's my fun thing to do, right? So I try to explain AI is like a great seasoning. You know what I mean? I still got to have the meat or the potatoes, the vegetables, whatever I'm making, and I want to properly season it because it brings out the flavor. And that's how you kind of have to look at like AI. You have these operational processes, you have technology. When you add AI, you're enhancing it. You're getting the better of it. But of course, that also comes with certain challenges, right? Because if I'm starting with faulty meat, stale meat, if I'm starting with rotten vegetables, the seasoning's just going to make that worse, right? So you want to be careful with trying to implement AI when you haven't optimized your processes, or if you have some outdated hardware, some of these old premises based systems, and people are trying to do AI bolt-ons. I kind of liken those to putting bright lipstick on a pig. It's not a cute picture.
Yeah.
I think you want to keep those things in mind. Think of it more as seasoning, but don't season rotten meat. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, I think those kind of integrations, of course, are good to be wary of. It reminds me almost of when like the first digital channels came into contact center. You'd have WhatsApp almost as bolted onto the contact center, and then it's sort of an isolated part of the business now. It wasn't integrating with anything else, and then contact centers had to spend a huge amount of money with resources to kind of make it all of developers, sorry, to make it all work. But I do think generally within you're saying the crawl, walk, run sort of philosophy when it comes to AI is huge. Maybe starting with some of those smaller low hanging fruit use cases, maybe like summaries like we've already discussed, and
Yeah.
then starting to sort of build up more of a plan is huge. And of course, that starts too with assessing the tech stack, making sure that you're working with the right partners, so you don't go down one road and then have to
Right.
quickly revert back to a different one. Um, but but yeah, I think again, lots of really good stuff there. And our fourth challenge, to just quickly move us along, is how contact centers are struggling with knowledge and data management.
Mhm.
Again, especially with knowledge, this is perhaps kind of an older challenge too that still persists in
Yeah.
2024 and I'm sure 2025. What's your thoughts on this one, Brendan?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. One is the knowledge base works two very important ways. One is it helps your agent be prepared. So that's a general knowledge base on our products and services, right? That helps your agent be prepared to deliver the right information in a timely manner. So you want to be able to crunch that data. You want it to be in consumable bites. And you want it to be available to the agent in real time. That's important, right? The other thing is the customer expectation now has gone from just answering my question and or wowing me, which is what people used to say, right? Like, wow, your customer exceed their expectations. Now the expectation is personalization, right? Customers expect you to know who they are, to know their value when you're talking to them. And I think some of the best examples of that are when you look at the loyalty programs that exist in the travel industry, right? Subscriber information that's available, online and stuff like that. That's important. So that is another use for your knowledge base. It's not just I need to know the products and services. I need to know who I'm talking to. I need to know the value of this customer and their importance for lack of a better way of explaining that. And so I think that's why it's important, and it's important to have all that tied together. If you have a knowledge base, but it's in a different system, and now I'm talking to the customer in one system, I got to log into something else to ask a question. It's not timely. It's not readily available. Then it actually slows down the process. And in a lot of ways, even if I get the right answer, if it takes me too long to get it or it's too cumbersome, then I've upset the customer in the meantime anyway.
It's a great topic, sort of data management in the context. And I think what actually encourages me though about it is that we're seeing kind of closer relationships between CCaaS providers and CRM providers
Yes.
to make sure that data is more readily available. Obviously, Zoom does a big announcement with ServiceNow quite recently, and we can see that
Yeah.
relationship growing as well. But then if you kind of also see how Zoom layers over a platform like Salesforce, for example, and how
Hmm.
you can kind of just extract data from Service Cloud via Zoom to kind of simplify the agent experience too. I think there's those sorts of burgeoning relationships do give me more confidence that this challenge that has persisted is definitely moving
Yeah.
in the
It's
right
moving in the right
direction.
direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you did actually mention there kind of about rising customer expectations, and that is our final challenge: how brands are struggling to keep
Mhm.
up with customer expectations.
Yeah.
Could you maybe explain a little bit more about that and why that's such a key challenge for 2025?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of a quagmire that I think the industry is trying to figure out because we have clear advancements in technology, right? I mean, like you just mentioned, the interaction, the CTI interaction between a CRM and a voice system is important, right? We know that we now have integrated, IVRs. We know that we have analysis on voice and those types of things. We know that we have AI in various aspects, right? AI using in workforce management. We have AI helping the agent know their information. We have AI up front. And yet with all these advancements, we're steadily seeing, depending on whose report you look at, we're steadily seeing customers say they believe contact center experiences are getting worse, right? So there's a miss there, right? We have all this advance, we have all this technology, but customers are saying, yeah, it's still bad. It's still bad and still getting worse. And I think part of it is even with all this technology, some organizations are missing what the customer actually wants. And it goes back to one of the other things we talked about, Charlie, is you can get AI and you can implement AI. But if it doesn't apply to what your customer base wants, you just wasted money or you made something faster or better, but it's not what they actually want. Customers want your process. They want the interaction with the organization to be easy. That's first and foremost. If they have to interact with you, they want it to be easy. They want you to understand what they want. They want you to know who they are. They want you to give them the answer and let them get on with their life, right? Because you're offering a product or service that they want, they have, and possibly that they're using, but they don't really want to interact with you. Like, that's not part of the deal. Ideally, I'd love to have your product and service and not have to talk to you. But if I do have to talk to you, I want it to be simple. I want it to be easy. I want you to know that I've already tried to chat with you. I want you to know that I was already on your website or using your chat bot, or that I talked to somebody else 2 days ago who told me a product was going to be here and it's not here. You should know those things, and that's the customer expectation. We are human beings are, we want what we want, right? And we want our gratification. We don't want to wait for it. I don't care. I know they say that some of the older generations have more patience. Yes, they have more patience, but everybody has their limit, right? Everybody has that point where they want it. And I think even with all the technology, because some of the technology isn't being used properly or it's not all together, then we're still not meeting that customer expectation, and that's why I think some of the other things that we talked about are important. If you kind of put them all together, right? You put together the data management and the omnichannel and the use of AI. You gotta put them all together if you want to address this last bullet point of meeting the customer's expectations.
Yeah, I think again, as you said, that really relates very much to what we've spoken about already. And it's not just it's data, getting the hands on data spread across the enterprise is interesting. We talked about CRM systems, but also if you think about Zoom has quite a good relationship with Oracle, for example, and how you can leverage even data from the ERP, and also how you can use the Zoom UCAS base to communicate with people across the business and gather that data as well. That's a fascinating topic, and I guess maybe a big reason why contact center experiences aren't necessarily getting better is again because of the first point that we mentioned, the high attrition and the long wait time still persist.
Yeah.
And then you still have legacy chatbots too, I guess is another kind of key topic. Those that don't understand when you change the context of a conversation, for example, so they get stuck and then you have to escalate straight to a conversation too. And I mentioned that because I know the Zoom's chatbot can switch between context. But yeah, I guess we've hit lots of great points there, and I think we've given some sort of nuggets of insight in how to overcome some of those challenges. But it's been great talking to you as always, Brandon. Always a fascinating conversation. So thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Charlie. Always great talking to you. I appreciate what you guys are doing to raise the level of education of the customers in the industry. I think it helps everyone. So I appreciate you guys.
So yeah, it was a great chat. And also thanks to everybody for watching too. Bye for now.